All right, once again, good evening and welcome to Spot On. I told you that if I ever got something worthy of your listenership, I would bring it to you. So today, we'll be talking about something that needs to be talked about. In the next 5 hours or thereabouts, the world will be marking the International Day of Persons with Disabilities. That's IDPD, if you would. The 3rd of December, every year, the world stops to celebrate and commemorate people who have shown us that there is ability in disability. Now, the world's population, give or take, is about 7 billion. Of course, there are people who are saying 7.8 or something, but, last count, 7 billion. And more than 1 billion people, that's approximately about 15% of the world's population, live with some form of disability. And out of this number that I just called, 7 billion people on the face of the earth, about 1 billion live with one form of disability or the other. 80% of that 1 billion reside in developing countries. In Nigeria alone, it's estimated that we have over 27 million people who live with disability. Yet, look around you. How many public buildings have ramps? No, let's even talk about hospitals. Or better still, let's talk about the basic schools. How many of them have ramps? Let's not even talk about the toilet facility having that. As is, we do not have on record any person with disability occupying an elective position at all since independence. We've never had a person with disability occupying an elective position. For appointive positions, there is little or no record about them. Probably because there are those who have opined that it is because even in their appointments, they are given appointments that are just there, so that you will not say we didn't give you. Let's give you this appointment. Just, be quiet, go and stay in one place. And, we have fulfilled our quota for those living with disability. And today I'm really glad to have in the studio with me someone who is she's so all over the place. Sometimes you forget that she is a person that actually has a disability or lives with disability, or a person with disability. I'm talking about Risikat Toyin Mohammed. It is a great pleasure to have you with me in the studio this evening. Thank you so much for being here, Risikat.
Thank you. Very grateful.
It's great to have you here. Okay. All right. Risikat is not only a voice, she is a strong voice. She has been talking, it's her talk and passion and advocacy for persons with disabilities has been only God knows when. I think I came into this business and met Risikat, talking and shouting for everyone that has cared to listen that we need to be included in governance, in education, and all that matters. And it is telling that this year we have as the theme, leadership and participation of persons with disabilities towards an inclusive, accessible, and sustainable post-COVID-19 world. Risikat, if you had to lump all of this up and just, try to summarize what the theme of this year is saying, what would you say?
I would say it's talking about participation. Good afternoon. My name is Risikat Toyin Mohammed. To me, The team is actually talking about participation, not representation. Because when you're talking about inclusion starts from hearing the voice of the people with disability. Then accessibility means an enabling environment for her to grow. So it's all around participation. When the people with disability are given the opportunity to participate, be at the forefront of their issue, from the designing stage to the final stage, you will now see that every issues comprises of you're talking about inclusion. Here the voice is there. You're creating an enabling environment. The people with disability, we advocate for issues affecting them. Like I said, it is high time for persons with disability to be at the driver's seat of every issue affecting persons with disability.
I particularly like what you said. Participation, not representation. I want you to explain what you mean by that.
Participation is different from representation. Globally, the world has recognized that there is need to move from representation. Today, for example, the Global Women Inclusive Humanitarian Forum, we had a meeting today, which is one of the emphases that participation, not representation. When issues of human rights, because disability is a human rights issue. So when you are talking about human rights issue, you don't represent, you give room for participation. Let all voice be heard. So looking around, why they say post-COVID-19? Yes, we have all gone through the shock of COVID-19. The world is coming out. Now there is
Omicron, yes.
There is another fear. Now, what they are saying is that let government start preparing, bringing together the vulnerable, the most vulnerable, design program before it hits the country. How do you think we can protect you? What are your needs? How can we, let's assume, because the world most of the country have started closing their borders, and we don't, as a Nigerian, this should be one of the first things we start thinking about, the vulnerable. Yes, what happened during COVID-19, 2019, shouldn't happen to Nigeria now. Yes, we have a long time, we have time to start planning. It is not only about taking the vaccine. It is also about nutrition for the vulnerable, because nutrition is very important. Most of the people with disability, some live under medication. They live on medication, and there is a need. When you are on medication, you need good nutrition to sustain yourself. Disability is a unique thing that it creates a lot of things. It demands a lot of things from you as a person living with disability. So by now, government should start. We are not saying government are not trying, but issues of persons vulnerable amongst the vulnerable, because people with disability are vulnerable amongst the vulnerable. The vulnerable, we have orphans, we have the women, we have the youth, all these groups. But when you're talking about the vulnerable among the vulnerable, a person with disability is living with his or her disability, and we are now talking about the stigmatization and discrimination, which covered all the disability. It's quite challenging. It's challenging you as a human being. You are living with your disability, trying to come up with your disability, and the society are depressing. So government has a lot of things to do. This is a call to all countries, which Nigeria as one of the developing countries that has highest rates of persons with disability, needs to wake up. And it's a call to the northern governors. Start preparing. Don't wait for the war to come. Start preparing. It is not about locking people indoor. It is about taking into consideration how can bring the people on board. Let's start planning. How can we prevent? What are the options? What are the things we need to put in place to make life easier for you? How can we prevent you contacting the Omicron? And how can we what are your needs? This should be one of our main targets now that we are commemorating International Day for Persons with Disability, because the world is now struggling around the new
variant of COVID-19. You know, Toyin, in Kaduna State, we're celebrating the disability rights that has been signed into law. Were you not carried along? Did you not know about this? You know, because I know that as a part of his campaign promises, you know, the governor had talked about, you know, including persons with disability, not just in governance, but ensuring, you know, that their rights were taken care of, which, you know, some people have said this signing into law, a big step in the right direction. But I'm just wondering, because you keep talking about, you know, representation, not participation, being part of the hurdles or the barriers that we have. Were you not carried along? And even if you weren't, what next on this particular law that has been signed?
Actually, thank you very much for mentioning the law. We really want to appreciate His Excellency Malam Nasir El-Rufai, because for how long we have been advocating for the law. He has fulfilled one of his campaign promises, and I can say he has done a great things for persons with disability in Kaduna State, signing the disability law and setting up a disability trust fund, and apart from that, also setting up disability welfare for a board. And you know, why I'm always shouting, there is nothing for us without us. With all this beautiful policy, beautiful programs, everything is on targeting persons with disability. I am calling out to them, the Malam Nasir El-Rufai, father of all, that the driving seat should be given to persons with disability. The world has passed the stage of representation.
Okay, so let me quickly stop you there. We're talking about some beautiful things. You've talked about the Disability Trust Fund.
Yes. You've
talked about apart from the rights that were signed, you talked about the trust fund, and you talked about what else? An agency? Did you say?
Yes. And disability welfare. Disability
welfare. And you're saying that on the board, you know, the heads of both the trust fund and we don't have persons with disability.
What we are saying is that the board should have 95 representation of persons with disability. 95, meaning that taking the disability world are taking ownership of their issues affecting them, not by quarter or any portion, because it is the issue. We say there is nothing for us without us. They are the one feeling the pain. They should be at the driver's seat of it. They should be the one to design programs appropriate to them. They should be the one telling them this is what we think we want in the budget. So by the time nobody is above the law. If a person with disability is on the driver's seat and mismanaged, there is law. The government is allowed to take action. But we are saying, Kaduna is always leading by example. His Excellency Malam Nasir El-Rufai has always done something great, and we believe this is what we want. 95% of all these good policy intervention should be headed by persons with disability.
Which isn't what we have right now.
This is what because it's all in process. But this is a call to action. This is a call to action to His Excellency, because He's Father of all and He's a listening man. He's a listening Father. We call to Him, this is what we want. He's always doing it. And we believe this is one of our cry to Him. 95% of all the seed should be given to persons with disability. And it should be a gender equity. Gender, both male and female, not dominated by any male. Because when the cry was on, we were at the forefront of it. So both the male and the female should be at the table. Gender equity. When a male and a female, if it is 95, it should be equal, shared among the women and the men with disability. We have allies, that people that are very educated, both the male and female with disability in Kaduna State. So that any position His Excellency is going to share under disability should be gender sensitive. We should have a male and a female.
Right. Okay.
If you have a male as a chair, the secretary should be a female. Bringing the voice of everybody on table. If a female is the chair, if a female is the chairperson, a female with disability is the chair, the secretary should be a male with disability. So that is when we will have equity. No voice will be left behind. There won't be any domination in the world of persons with disability. Because why I'm saying this is what I'm saying. This is the cry of women with disability in Kaduna State. Women with disability voice needs to be at the forefront of the issue. And His Excellency being a gender advocate, a father of all women, and is always protecting the rights of women in Kaduna State. For us to have a female deputy governor, which shows our governor is father of all. We are calling, when the position are going to be shared, it should be shared among the male and the female with disability in Kaduna State. Okay,
before we go on a break, I've had an opportunity to speak with other people. I must say, Risikat, Toyin Mohammed, that you're one of the very few female persons with disability in Kaduna State that I know that are this vocal. And I spoke to this other lady that I had the privilege of meeting, and she said, well, we are people who are carrying two barriers. We're not only persons with disability, we're also female. And so she said right from when she was small, she was made to understand that your voice does not matter. You should not be seen and you shouldn't be heard. And when you look at the situation around education, accessibility with people with disability, you start to wonder, even if the governor were to say, okay, it's 95% must, be people with disability, occupying these positions, are we going to find enough women who are as vocal, who are as passionate about jumping into the waters of service and leadership as you?
I am not positive. In Kaduna State, we have educated women with disability. Very educated. They are challenging. I praise them. You see, although the society is creating barrier against women with disability, a woman with disability is facing two barriers: being a disabled and also being a woman. And looking at that, you can imagine when someone that is facing two barriers was able to grow up, get educated, and now what kind of wave can stop that person from moving? You have passed through lots of stigmatization, lots of labeling, discrimination from family, from society, even among your peers. who are supposed to be protecting the peer with disability. And you now grew up, you're now a graduate. What other challenge can that lady with disability face? I don't believe that. We have women that are very vocal, that deserve to be recognized in the different states. They are working and very tirelessly. I am saying it. We have educated, we have lawyers among women with disability. So it is when government say bring your CV, you will be surprised the numbers of women with disability that will submit their CV.
I hope he's listening. All right, let's quickly go on a commercial break right now, and when we get back, we'll be having more of Risikat's Toyin Mohammed commemorating the International Day of Persons with Disabilities, of course, which really comes up tomorrow. But you know, it's a thing I think that we should actually celebrate and commemorate and recognize every day, because without inclusion, there's certainly no true development. Stay with us. We'll be right back. All right, welcome back from that commercial break there. Still with Risikat Toyin Mohammed, a person with disability, a woman very, very passionate about the cause of persons with disability. And seeing as how we're celebrating and commemorating the International Day of Persons with Disabilities on the 3rd of December, we are glad to have Toyin here. And she's been talking to us about quite a lot. And you know, something just came up while we're off, and I said, it's you know, you remember the humor that it caused when we heard that a man wanted to run for national women's leader of one of our political parties, and he said, you know, he felt that he was the best person to lead women nationally. It was a lot of people laughed about it because it was simply ludicrous, to be frank, that you would see the world the way a woman would see it. Because you are not a woman, you cannot be a woman, you cannot be a woman. Anyway, coming back to Toyin, I just want to quickly ask a question. And of course, please, the lines are open. Right now, you can call us. We'll take your calls, you know, your questions as we go along. And the lines are 081 40,989 and 070 989. Once again, that's 081 40,989 and 070 989. Coming to you, back to you, Risikat, you know, talking about whether governance, education, health, and so much more. I'm just naming 3 very important pillars of anyone's life. Anyone who wants to live with dignity, education, being included in how you're governed, and of course your health. Which would you say needs more attention right now as a person with disability?
To me, I would say governance.
Why? Why would you say?
As I was saying before the break, is participation. Giving the will of leadership to people with disability. We brought a lot of change. One of the challenges people with disability are facing, I think, is not, you cannot feel what I'm feeling until you are in my position. I used to ask people, when they say, I know how you feel, I will ask them, do you know how many times I fall before sitting on my wheelchair? And you say, you know how I feel. You will think you know, but you don't know the challenges a person with disability goes through from in every daily life. So you see, these are things we are talking about.
Particularly, you know, you just said something. Do you know how many times I fall before I get on my chair every day? And you say, I know how you feel.
Yes.
Indeed.
That is what we're talking about, the challenges a person with disability face.
So you are saying...
So now, what I'm saying is that When we have governance, when people with disability are in governance, the inclusion will be there. We will get everything right. Look at education. Look at the new schools built. I was at Lokoja Road in Brigasa. His Excellency, Father of all, built a very beautiful school, but without consideration for persons with disability. It was a very bad project. But when we went there, I feel the pain of a child with disability in that community. I was in tears because I know what I went through when I was in primary school. It was not even upstairs, but this one was two-story building. Can you that's what I'm always saying, put yourself in the shoe. You say you know how we feel. Close your eyes and walk for a day. Let someone close it with tight something so that you can't even see any brightness. For a whole week, not a day, then you know how it feels. Tie your leg and crawl or try to get on a wheelchair. Then you know how we feel. Put something in your nose, in your ear, and don't talk. And while others are communicating with you, stigmatizing you for a whole week, just a day, and you feel what we are going through. So, when a person with disability is at the table of decision, the plan will change. The plan will change. Because by the time for example, look at House of Assembly. You can see the challenges a person with disability will go through to move around there. Let's assume we have a member of House of Assembly that is physically challenged. The plan will have changed more than 10 years ago. Look at Ministry of Education. For you as a physically challenged to go up, I am telling you, the day I went to the Ministry of Education that has a mandate for special education, it is very challenging. Three mighty men used to carry my wheelchair. Me and my wheelchair, you can see the challenges. These are the place that is having a mandate for special education. That is what they have. Okay, now that the governor, Kaduna State have inclusive education. Since 2014, Kaduna State has signed inclusive education. And the Ministry of Education has not even put in place any changes.
Since 2014.
This is Kaduna State inclusive education was signed 2014. And it's also in the Kaduna State education policy, where they say charity begins at home. Show me what aspect of the education has been inclusive.
Let me stop you there. We're having calls. Let's take those calls now. Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Madam Jacqueline.
You're welcome. Your name, please?
I'm Chika from Bungora.
Okay, Chika.
Okay.
Yes, from Bungora.
All right, go ahead.
I'd like to thank your guest for, enlightening us. What she just said now really is a challenge in the entire nation. Leadership, our style of leadership, I don't know, is like our leaders like to give some sort of lip services to issues that are very sensitive, that have direct bearing on the citizen, especially like the physically challenged people. She said something that really touched me. If we don't open up the system for participation, you cannot feel the way these people feel. You cannot know their needs and how those things should be solved. So government must stop paying lip service to some of those things. Like she said, 2014, the state government has established that, but a lot has not been done to reflect, that in the structure and all of that, to include the people with disability. So as much as we commend the government for a very good policy and program, we must have the courage and the political will for implementation. And who will implement it? The people who are up there that are not disabled, they will not be able to have the courage. You see, we must put our heads together and encourage people like her who have been so vocal and in the forefront to advocate for an inclusive leadership in this country. Otherwise, those people that are coming from behind will feel discouraged and will not participate. And like she said, government always thinks representation. If they give somebody an appointment, he might not have the ability to do, he might not have the courage to challenge also things that you might not like. But when they are voted into power, the man will have the backup of his people and to be able to stand for his people and constituents.
Okay.
So it's not about
all right.
an individual there. It's not about an individual there. It's about the whole disabled. The State House of Assembly is our own house. The school is our own school. The market and all those houses are our own. So it shouldn't be, this plan must change. I know it start now.
All right.
We are tired of celebrating and marking days of disability without any significant change.
Without any significant. Thank you so much. We should stop, commemorating days without significant change. Coming back to you, nothing for us without us. Looking at the situation, is there anything else that you feel that people with disability can do to get attention and, to get the needed attention to say, look, you cannot, for instance, for the trust fund and, the welfare board, you cannot put able-bodied people there because you will get the same results. Is there any other thing that you feel that you can do?
Just like what I said, getting results is being on the wheel. Issues of governance, we all know, once you are not at the table, you can only advocate. But when the power is given to the right people, then we can have change. We are talking about participation. People, if they call to people with disability, the government of the day is our father and a listening man. He have passion for persons with disability. So we should come out and participate. This is the drafting stage. The bill has been signed. This is when you need to say the truth. No, we shouldn't hide behind anybody. Say the truth. Because I am saying it because I don't want other children with disability coming up to go through what we go through. We know experience is the best lesson, but that some lesson can be diverted. You can avoid it if the right thing is done at the right time. We are talking about, we all know we are in the urban community. Go to the rural community and see what children with disability are going through. We did a little survey. When you see what children with disability are going through, that is where the problems are. So by the time a person with disability is at the table, it will change the mindset of the parents. It will change the mindset of the society. We are talking about attitudinal change. We are talking about people should they should have a trust. Build trust. If you want to build trust, you have to come out. And the government are in the driving wheel to give voice to the voiceless. Change the wheel, change the drama, how it has been done. Okay, this is how it has been done before, and we are still not getting it right. Let persons with disability take ownership of their issue, and if they failed, government now can say you failed your people, not we failed your people. But I believe if they cannot change, if they cannot fail, we can make it, because we are talking about bringing visually impaired, both male and female, on board. bringing hearing impaired, both male and female on board, bringing physically challenged, both male and female on board. Let them take the wheel. Let them drive the wheel. It is their cost. Let them take it. And I'm telling you, if one is corrupt, the 50% cannot be corrupt. And we are going to change. It's going to change their lives. And then government can hold them accountable. But the same game, the same music, and the same methods of dancing has not changed. But if we government, with the level of his passion to uplift the standard of persons with disability, I think this is just a call. But he can get it right by giving the driving wheel to persons with disability.
I mean, it's your cause.
Yes.
You should be in the driver's seat.
Yes.
You should be in the driver's seat. What better way than to end it like this? I mean, you've said so much, Risikat, Toyin, Mohammed, commemorating and, celebrating persons with disability this year. And of course, the theme of this year is talking about, leadership, inclusion of people or persons with disability, especially in a post-COVID-19 world. That COVID-19 has impacted on the world. Just for a moment, many of our listeners, imagine what you're going through as an able-bodied person. And, I know a lot of us are not finding it funny. Can you imagine what it is like for someone who has other things to contend with, living with disability, for instance? Is it not about time for us to do the right thing? Well, here is hoping and praying that our governor is listening and that these agencies, these cars driving or that is supposed to drive persons with disability to the promised land will be driven by persons with disability. I think that's it in summary.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Risikat, Toyin, Mohammed, once again for being here. Honestly, your passion is to be emulated by everyone, not just persons with disability. Here you are with disability. You're here this night. Getting back home is another matter entirely, and yet here you are. Thank you so much. Not just for being here, but for showing us that when you put your minds to something, nothing is impossible.
There is always ability in disability.
Always.
Thank you very much.
Well, I don't know. There's nothing else to add. Just remember that we can do better. Have a victorious evening.